If you are looking for a house in Barrie and you're continually frustrated by these rising prices, here's an idea you may want to consider that can help you get into the housing market. Did you know that Barrie currently has one of the highest rental rates for a one-bedroom apartment in all of Canada? Yeah, that's right. A little old Barrie, population around 140,000 people, an hour north of Toronto, is one expensive place to rent an apartment. But if you are looking to buy a house in Barrie, these high rental rates may be to your benefit. Keep watching to find out how. Right now, it costs around $1,700 a month to rent a one-bedroom apartment in Barrie. That $1,700 a month would go a long way towards a mortgage payment on a house. $1,700 a month would cover around $350,000 worth of mortgage. So why not try to find a house with an apartment in it that you can rent out? They used to be called basement apartments or an in-law apartment, but now they can be legalized, done according to zoning and everything, and we refer to them as second suites. If you are looking for a house around $800,000, depending on how much you put down as a down payment, that $1,700 a month could cover around half of your mortgage payment. There are a lot of houses out there that already have a second suite built in them, and they always sell for a premium. They're pretty desirable. Be prepared to pay a bonus, a little bit extra, for a house that already has an existing income-producing suite. There are a lot of illegal basement apartments in Barrie still, where somebody just puts a kitchen in the basement, throws a door in to separate the two living spaces, the upstairs and downstairs, and then rents it out to someone. This has been going on for years, and it still happens. Don't tell anyone, but I had an illegal basement apartment in my first house over 25 years ago. Now, whoever owns that house or whoever bought it after I owned it has gone through the process and has it legalized now. But many of these illegal apartments are unsafe fire traps, they don't fit the fire code, and they can be shut down if a neighbor complains about it. Too many cars parked on the street, noisy tenants. There's all kinds of reasons why a neighbor might complain about an illegal apartment. You don't want an illegal apartment, or you can look into having it legalized once you own it. But if the apartment or the second suite is done properly and legal, it cannot be shut down because of a complaint from a neighbor. If you can find yourself a house that lends itself physically to having a second suite in the basement, such as a walkout basement or a split entry bungalow where you walk in bungalow and stairs go down instead of stairs goes up, people split those into two a lot. That's great. Or if you cannot find a house with an existing entry to the basement, you could look for one where you may have the potential to add your own new entrance to the basement, where they dig alongside the foundation and put a set of stairs in. You can do that, but it's going to be expensive and it's going to add to your cost. And the cities want these. There's an affordable housing crisis going on, and cities want rentals that are not crazy expensive. Your neighbors might not like it, but the city of Barrie wants more affordable housing. Another benefit of having a legal second suite in your house is that your mortgage lender, your bank, will most likely allow you to use at least some of that rental income when it comes to qualifying for a mortgage. With an illegal apartment, the banks will not consider any of the rental income. Now, to be straight, there's a lot of red tape involved to get an apartment done legally. You're dealing with the government. It's bureaucracy. They're slow as molasses. They nitpick everything. If you have the patience and you don't mind dealing with that kind of stuff, you can do it yourself, do it all yourself, or there are companies out there that will do the complete job in your house from start to finish, from permits to finishing the apartment. Here's a quick rundown of some of the rules involved in the Second Suite program. Have a look at these because some of these could affect whether or not you can put a second suite in the house you were looking at. Second suites are only permitted in residential zones and in existing dwellings with frontage on a municipal street. So if you were in a condominium townhouse, like Timberwalk or one of the other smaller condominiums around, or one of those new common elements condominiums where you buy a townhouse and you have small maintenance fees for picking up the garbage and stuff like that, that's a common elements condominium. If you're in one of those complexes, you cannot legally have a second suite. It has to be on a municipal road. The property must be able to accommodate 2 parking spaces, at least 2.7 meters by 5.5 meters. That's around 9 by 18 feet. Now they can be either side by side, or they can be like front to back in the driveway. And one of the parking spots can actually even be in the garage, as long as the garage meets the minimum size requirement. Now, the parking spots must be wholly on the property of the house. They cannot include the little bit of spot at the end of the driveway that's actually the city-owned property, the boulevard or whatever you want to call it. That cannot be considered part of your parking spot. Another rule is the area to be turned into a second suite must be smaller than the area of the principal dwelling in the house. It's not really much of a problem because most of these second suites are going to be in basements, and the basements are just by default smaller than the rest of the house. Another rule, you can only have one second suite in a house. So if you have a really big house and you already have a second suite in it, and you think, maybe, oh, I'll build a second suite, I got a big basement, you can't do that. You can only have one. Now there is this new thing called the Detached Accessory Dwelling Unit. So if you have room on your property, you can build a detached building like in your backyard. They're somewhat contentious right now because these garden suites or granny flats or whatever you want to call them can really affect the makeup of a neighborhood. There's 3 dwelling units on a residential lot in a residential subdivision, and each one of them has to have parking allocated to it. That's beyond the scope of this video. It's a whole different ballgame there. There are a lot of building code specifications and zoning bylaws that go into building a second suite. Don't take my ramblings here as the rules for your specific area. You're better off to do your own research on this one. This video is just to give you a rough outline of what to expect. There is a city zoning bylaw, the Ontario Building Code requirements for second units, the Ontario Fire Code, and property standards bylaws. Just a few of the things you have to consider when building a second suite. You have to have fire-rated drywall in between the 2 suites, so 5/8" drywall on the ceiling of the lower unit, which is usually a basement apartment. And there's minimum ceiling heights in the second suite, so you can't have a second suite in a really low basement. There are minimum window sizes. So if you only have one entrance into your unit, one of the windows has to be big enough for somebody to escape in the unfortunate event of a fire. There are also minimum window sizes required for bedrooms. If you were thinking this is something that may be worth looking into, having a second suite in your house in order to buy a house and help with the mortgage, your first stop should be to a mortgage lender. 2 reasons. Some of the mortgage lenders will lend you the money to put a second suite in, and whether or not you can use the income from this registered second suite in order to help you qualify for your mortgage. And depending on whether or not you like being a landlord while you have your second suite, when it comes time for you to want to move to another house, to a bigger, better house, you can see about refinance your existing house with the 2 units in it, the upstairs and downstairs units, refinance that, take some of the equity from it, and buy your next house, your bigger house, your nicer house, and keep your second suite house as an investment property. And if you wanted to, you could start the process all over again and put a second suite in your new house. I hope you found this video helpful. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. And be sure to check out these videos over here to find out more information about the city of Barrie.